The Olympic quarterfinals begin play this week. We'll preview those games for both Team Serbia and Team USA and Team Canada. Plus, how should Olympic and FIBA play impact the player's legacy? And we'll talk a little bit about which Nuggets will have career games this season. All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You're muted. You mute yourself.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Monday for World's Finest. Hope you're having a fine start to your week. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Adam Mares. He's director of content for DNVR. We're going to do World's Finest today. We're going to talk about which Nuggets will have their career best games this season. Which games, best games of the Nuggets' careers are ahead of them this particular season. In the second segment, we're going to talk about FIBA play, Olympic and FIBA play, and how those can shape legacies for various Nuggets, as well as just players in general. And we'll start today by previewing the quarterfinals of the Olympics. As Adam, it is I will say this, it's a really great bracket. Like this is a great bracket of games.
Yeah, it is. I wish Serbia was not on USA side. It sucks that they have to play them now 3 times. You know, that's a little bit lame. But other than that, I agree that I think the bracket is very interesting.
I just meant more from the teams in this. I'm like going down the list and really outside of Greece, I think, because I think South Sudan was better than Greece.
I think they were better than Brazil. They should have gotten in over Brazil.
Should have gotten over Brazil for sure. On one side of the bracket, you've got Germany takes on Greece at 5 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Mountain. Serbia will play Australia at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 a.m. Mountain.
Oh, is it 6:30?
That's what I've got.
Oh, thank God. I thought it was 5:30. 6:30. I could, but that's fine.
That 5:30 is bad, but 6:30 is okay.
5:30, I do not wake up at 6:30. A little bit before I wake up, but you know what?
You can do it. You can do it. Canada will play France at noon Eastern, and USA plays Brazil at 3:30 Eastern. From the numbers I've got. Let's talk about Serbia versus Australia. Australia is honestly kind of underwhelmed. I think, given their NBA talent that they have on roster and kind of their history of success, they haven't been nearly as impressive as they have been in kind of other Olympic years. So to me, this looks like a very good opportunity for Serbia to at least get past and have a chance versus Team USA in that next round. What are your thoughts on Serbia versus Australia?
I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be an interesting style fight. I mean, number one, Jokic should have a major advantage. I think it's more difficult in FIBA play with the rules and how you can stack the paint for a big to have an individual one-on-one scoring advantage. Nonetheless, it's Jock Landale, and there's nobody behind him, Dwap Reith, and some guy I never heard of. So I think that Jokic should be able to really be aggressive. This is a game I would predict him to have like 15 rebounds in. So I think it sets up nicely for him. But Serbia has struggled in the past. I'm shook because they have struggled in the past with these little guards that get hot. And Patty Mills is one of those guys that can just, if I told you Patty Mills makes 7 threes in that game, you would not be surprised. It's on the table. You know, Josh Giddey's obviously a good player, an NBA player, knows how to get. It looks like he's on a mission so far in this tournament. So for me, it's not a cakewalk. I think Serbia's going to have an A game, but I think that it plays well to Jokic's strengths, and you know, I think he'll do well.
Team USA plays Brazil. They'll stomp them. I don't even really want to spend any time on the Brazil matchup. They're going to absolutely stomp all over Brazil.
I think they're going to beat them so bad, people are going to overreact a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's going to happen. This might be that 40-point win, 120. Like they put up an insane number, and people are like, no one's stopping them. But it's a little bit of a false summit.
Yeah. And is this the best Olympic Team USA of all time? Things like that. Canada versus France, I think, is really interesting. Just from France hasn't been impressive, right? Like they go to overtime versus Japan in an absolutely classic game, and then Victor Wembanyama was sensational in that group play game in overtime. Mm-hmm. That's my only kind of thing here, where Canada should win. They should win comfortably because I think that they are just much better than France. But Victor Wembanyama in particular is just such a wild card. He can look awful 1 second and look absolutely dominant the next. And having players like that, I think, is always like really kind of scary. But overall, I just think Canada's defense in particular on the perimeter, they're so physical with the guys that they have. I think they should be able to get past France.
It's defense versus defense. It's the only thing I think you can give yourself if you're France. How can you win this game? Defense versus defense, and Canada doesn't take threes for some reason. Like Jamal Murray is actually going to be important in this game because they need his 3-point shooting. Kelly Olynyk is having a terrible tournament right now as well. Him and Jamal, both of those guys represent the shooting for that team. So I think they'll be needed. But to your point, the margin of error is in Canada's favor.
I think Giannis is still leading the Olympics in scoring per game.
I think he's 28 a game.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he is carrying a Sisyphean load for Greece in this one. And I don't think they've got much of a chance versus Germany, who I think they're the second best team in the tournament. I think they have a legitimate shot if they can catch Team USA overconfident. I think there's like a shot for Germany to pull off the upset. I think Germany's that good. I'm really in on Germany.
Germany is the Spurs. They execute. They play a really smart brand of basketball, and they have guys whose names don't necessarily ring out, but are good players. And Schroeder, Wagner, even Daniel Theis does his role. So they have guys. I like them a lot as well. I think that'll be a good game. Or I think they'll be a contender. I don't think it'll be a good game versus Greece. I think they're going to smoke them.
What are your predictions going in the quarterfinal round for medaling?
USA gold.
Yeah.
I actually think the bracket broke well for Team USA. As much as I think Serbia is good, I think it's going to be tough for them to beat Team USA. Germany would have a better chance, and maybe even Canada. So USA gold. I think Germany. I'm gonna go Canada silver.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go with Serbia as the bronze, even though that one to me is like a 50-50. But I'm going to go with my heart on that one.
I will go Team USA gold, Germany silver.
Here's the thing about Germany, Canada. Schroeder is like their MVP. I know Wagner is really good, but they have Dort. They have Nikhil Alexander-Walker. They have Dylan Brooks. They have a lot of guys that you would think would make an impact. It's specifically the matchup, because I like Germany more as a team, but I think that matchup might lend itself a little bit more towards Canada.
That's interesting. Okay. I like Germany for overall their size, athleticism. I think especially Canada's bigs have struggled a little bit more than I expected. So I am a little bit worried on that front. So I'll go ahead and I'll go with Germany for the silver. Bronze, I think I think
if we get a Canada Serbia showdown for a medal, that's my worst case scenario. I don't want that.
you don't want it?
One of Murray or Yo comes home empty-handed. That's a bummer.
I think I'm actually gonna go with Serbia for bronze.
Oh, they beat Canada.
I think Canada goes home empty, which would really suck for them given how much they've led up to this point. But Canada's had a few games in group play and in the friendlies that I've just kind of been like, like they're just not. And like, look, I think Serbia's had some dicey moments here and there, but I think maybe floor for Canada is lower than Serbia's. So I'll predict a floor game for both in the bronze, and I'll go with Serbia for bronze.
How would it be a bad thing? Like those two matching up, would it be a bad thing, like them playing each other? Do you think it could create any kind of weirdness?
No, those guys.
What if Murray has nothing but terrible games and then the bronze medal game goes off for 30?
I think Jokic
feels on the table, right?
Jokic would genuinely be happy for him.
He'd be like, all right, there's my guy. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think that athletes in general have nothing but respect for, at their very core, they respect the competitiveness in their peers.
But here's the question, Matt, is because obviously, and I did the documentary 100 Invisible Threads, I know how important international success is for Serbian players' legacy. And I don't think Jokic, ruminates on his legacy too often. But I do think that he cares to bring medals to Serbia. I do think that means something to him. And so losing out on one, I think he's very determined to try to get a medal in this Olympics. And losing out on one, I think, would be pretty painful for him. So you're right that there's the weird layer as if you lose it to your teammate, that would be a bummer, but I don't think it would be a personal thing. But I do think that it would bother Jokic to not get a medal.
Yes. I think that's definitely true. Given just if you're gonna put the time in, you want to come away with something.
It's a lot of time and energy, man. A lot of time and energy to not get a medal.
Yeah. Adam kind of mentioned it here that, the Olympics and FIBA play can really impact a player's legacy. We'll talk about how that can shape a player's legacy. Plus, we'll take a look at what that could mean for the various Nuggets in Olympic play. We'll do that next here on Locked On Nuggets. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Monday for World's Finest. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to every single person with emergency management and firefighters that helped out with the fires in Loveland this past week. I was about 7 miles from the original starting point of the fires, and they the work that those folks did to keep those fires away from homes and businesses and the fiber optics line, which keeps people in contact. There's no other way for a lot of folks in the canyon to be able to get contact, was absolutely phenomenal. The fire is heading up towards 70% contained right now, which is absolutely sensational given how dry it has been. It was a miserable fight. My kid has got bronchitis from all of the smoke that has been going on. So I have nothing but gratitude for everyone that helped with the fires across the state of Colorado this week.
Shout them out.
All right, let's talk about Olympic play and FIBA international play and how it can shape legacies. I always think this is a really great question, in part because the Hall of Fame is driven off of all levels, like regardless of whether you should be what.
No, you're right. That part I think is a little silly, but
yeah, because I am kind of the mindset of like, I actually think much like I feel about how you have to kind of recognize the differences in these games. It would be good to have an NBA Hall of Fame in part to let like the actual basketball Hall of Fame not have this constant tension with, well, what about the NBA? Like it needs to be able to stand on its own because there's been so many great players that have come through and changed it. What do you feel like an Olympic medal, bronze, silver, gold, what do you think that does for a player's career when we look back at it?
Well, first of all, these tournaments are funny because like Serbia got on USA's side of the bracket, which means gold and silver feel like they're out of the equation. Of course, they're possible in these upset scenarios, but there's such long shots where if they were on the other side, you could look at it and say, okay, silver medal, now you have a chance at the silver. So it's a little bit different when we start. I think that you have to, first of all, just say medals count and golds count. And then the silver bronze is like, well, let's see what kind of break did they get, in the seating. But I think they do matter, especially I think they matter more every year going forward than they did in the previous ones, just because of how much the international competition is becoming serious. It's becoming intense now. But I look at it and I say, a guy like Manu Ginobili winning with the Spurs as much as he did, and then being part of a team that upset the Team USA and sort of changed international competition, that's a huge boost to him. When we talk about, well, how good was he? How good really was he? He was with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. How can we evaluate him? We say, yeah, but he was with this whole other group of guys and they had success as well. I think Pau Gasol is a similar story. He played with Kobe. How good was he? He was playing with Kobe, this or that. Well, guess what? He also had success playing with this other group of guys in a whole different other stage. So I think those things actually do factor. And going forward, I always look at Luka winning Eurobasket, winning a gold medal. I look at that and I go, that's impressive. That's actually a really impressive thing to do. And when you see how tough the competition is in these tournaments, for him to already have that under his belt, it counts for me.
Arvydas Sabonis, 1 gold, 2 silvers in the Olympics, 1 gold, 1 silver at World Cup, 1 gold, 1 silver, 2 bronze at Eurobasket. I do kind of wonder like where Arvydas would have been had he been in like modern game, right? Like his NBA career was so influenced by the age at which he came over, and the way that the game was played. Honestly, then like I think Arvydas would absolutely just destroy in today's game. I think he would be phenomenal.
There's no way he's guarding the perimeter, though.
That's true. There is a real argument to be made that maybe outside of the Team USA players, that Pau Gasol is one of, and Oscar Schmidt, because we got to just like take Oscar and put him aside.
I mean, he's like Will Chamberlain. I don't know anything about him other than the records.
Right. Pau Gasol, 3 Olympic medals, including 2 silvers. He was a 7-time medalist at Eurobasket, 3-time first place. He had a first place.
You know what, Matt? You mentioning this makes me think of another thing. That's a lot of volume. I think there's an impressiveness to the volume too, of like, and Serbs always say this about Jokic, like Bogdan Bogdanovic is now the leading scorer in Serbian history. It's impressive that he plays every summer. That's a level of endurance that's kind of like, man, I would love it if we started crediting players for playing a ton. You know, like I wonder if that would become an incentive. Like we talk about Iron Man, never missed a game. John Stockton and Karl Malone, those guys never got hurt. It'd be cool, like, if that became a bigger part of a player's legacy, was they just were available and they never sat out.
I think, it's because of the modern era. It's definitely a credit because we see so many guys miss games. There's always, I think, going to be this other side of it, because if you're a fan of somebody, I do try and consider this. If you're a fan of somebody who's just always injured, right? If you're a fan of somebody who's just always injured, it doesn't feel like their fault. It doesn't feel like, and it doesn't feel fair. So it doesn't feel fair to credit the other side of it. But for me, I'm just like, yeah, they made the choice, especially in this environment. Like Yoke had every reason to take the summer off, every single reason. And like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure that's involved in it for representing your country. But if he had just been like, look, I have, he could have been like, yeah, I've got to have wrist surgery. Can't do it. Right. Whatever it is, but he's playing. Jamal had every reason to be like, look, I was terrible in the playoffs. I got to get healthy, but he is trying to work his way through this and compete for his country. And so these players that are willing to do so, I do think it's a real credit to them to be available that much and to compete, especially when you're a guy like Pau Gasol or Jokic, who your team is so dependent on. I think absolutely, for sure.
And then just if you look at this tournament, it does mean something to me that Franz Wagner is so successful. I mean, here's another thing to think about. There's NBA basketball and FIBA basketball is different. There's different styles. Sometimes you see a player get traded from one team to another, and they're either way better or way worse. And you think, okay, what happened? Were they only good in this system or what have you? So players whose talents is able to translate to multiple systems, to me, that tells me something about their game. And I'll give you a player that has impressed me, Devin Booker. We talk about how hard it is for players to scale their games up and down. Devin Booker has done a great job of fitting into what the role that was needed him, Team USA. He might be number 1 player on Team USA at changing his role from what it is in the NBA to something else, but doing an A+ job at it. So to me, that shows a level of mastery over the game that you're able to mold to different things. And the fact that Franz Wagner is so good in the NBA, max player, but also so good at this style, to me, that tells me something about him that makes me think he's a little better, that we should elevate our perception of him.
So it sounds like, for your estimation, that participating in these games and excelling in these games is a real, like, you think there's a real, that it's maybe not only just underrated, but that there's a real significant upgrade to how we should evaluate these players based off of their both availability and performance in these kind of.
Yes, with the caveat of, like, James Harden is a great example of this to me. James Harden's a great player. How much can he be? Like, he has the quote even this last year, I am the system. Like, as much as that feels like a thump your chest, declaration, part of me goes like, yeah, but can you not be? Like, are you capable of being something else besides the system? And I think Embiid, again, not just to keep ragging on him, but that's one thing I'm watching now is I'm like, it's interesting that he doesn't seem to know how to do anything else than the one thing he does really well, albeit maybe better than anybody in the NBA right now. But it is interesting to go like, there must be some limitation to his skill. And then it makes you wonder, does that limitation actually affect him in the NBA in ways that we don't recognize, because it makes it harder on other teammates. So I look at that and I just say international competition is fun for showing guys a different element, a slightly different element, and seeing how they adjust.
If Yoke adds another medal, if he doesn't wind up with a bronze or silver, let alone gold, what do you think it does for his legacy as an international player?
I think he has a long way to go. There's players that are very accomplished in international competition. So just his international resume would add another medal to the trophy case for sure. But I think that he still has, I think Yoke has like one signature Olympics or World Cup or Eurobasket event still ahead of him. Meaning, like, even if he gets, like, say, a bronze this year, again, just kind of cursed from being against this Team USA and having to play him in the semis. But I think there's a signature gold or silver or just moment or game that if he doesn't get one, I think it'll feel like he missed out on something. And I think Serbians would feel that especially.
Does Luka have a shot at going down as the greatest international player of all time?
I mean, yes, because he's young, he's great, and he already has a medal. But
Right.
the one thing about him that we'll find out, LeBron James is 39 years old and still the best player on Team USA because he's taking care of his body better than anybody in the history of the game, or as well as anybody in the history of the game. Is Luka that? Because we look at Luka and we're like, oh man, he has 10 more years of international competition. Does he? We'll find out, because you don't get that just by being there. You have to be capable of being able to put that much mileage on your body, and we'll find out if he is.
Nino brings up it's Manu, and I sent you Manu's international resume, which is just preposterous.
It's insane. It's a lot of winning.
It's just incredible. Like Manu Ginobili to have the number of titles that he had, 4 titles in the NBA, along with everything that he's got at EuroLeague champion, EuroLeague Finals MVP, 2-time EuroLeague Finals top scorer. Like the list goes on and on and on. 2 times Italian Cup. Like the number of things in Manu's resume. Manu drove me nuts because he was such a flopper in the late 2000s. And I miss that guy so much for how crafty he was. He was such a phenomenally great player. I really miss watching Manu Ginobili play basketball. I'm going to go watch some Manu highlights today, I think.
So somebody here says Euro won't count. I'm thinking you're saying a Euro basket won't count. I think it counts maybe the most. That might be the toughest tournament just because all the good, like in the Olympics, there's Lithuania didn't make it in, Slovenia didn't make it in, Latvia didn't make it in. There's good teams that didn't make it. Italy, that just because there's only 12 teams that are allowed and they want to get like every continent. So Eurobasket probably has the densest concentration of good teams. The World Cup as well, although the U.S. doesn't bring their best team for the World Cup for whatever reason. So each tournament has its own dynamic that I find interesting. And then on top of that, as I mentioned before, in the Olympics, you're avoiding the U.S. So if you get them in the semifinal, you end up with a bronze instead of a silver. Whereas in Eurobasket, there's no U.S. It's a level playing field, and it's like that gold to me almost matters more because you don't have to say circumstances about the U.S. You just say, nope, it was the best of the rest outside of like Argentina, Brazil.
On the other side, we're going to talk about the Nuggets, and we're going to talk about which players are going to have a career game this upcoming season. Who can have their best game of their career in 2024-25. We'll do that next here on Locked On Nuggets. It's time to talk about Game Time. I love Game Time. I've talked about it before. I have multiple concert tickets I'm going to this month. I got them on Game Time. We're going to go see some Rockies games before the end of the season. Going to get them on Game Time. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's the best way for you to get tickets to any sporting event. You can also go in late and you can get like right up to the start of the event and then just walk in and find these great discount tickets. So if you're shopping on the cheap, like a lot of folks have to be, you can definitely still go to these events by getting in after they start with Game Time. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've got all-in pricing. You toggle that feature on and you can make sure that you know exactly what you're going to be paying for instead of getting hit with all the fees, which drive me absolutely crazy. They've got a lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And of course, they got those great seat views where you can get a panoramic view of where your seats are so you know that what you're getting when you buy tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. Baba Yaga is very mad at me for saying Germany is good at basketball and says that everyone calls LeBron James LaFlop. No one calls him that. It's like one of those, like, there's this tweet I've seen going around about Charlie Brown having a series of young women around him. And it's like, no, he didn't. That's not true. Same deal. Let's talk about the Nuggets. So which players are going to have career games this season? So let's start with who we know is not. Russell Westbrook, probably not going to have a career game given what he's accomplished.
Can you imagine what if he had a career game where he had a 50-point triple-double in Denver? Like, what career game would be insane? That'd be the story of the year in the entire NBA. But yes, it's not going to happen. Not going to
happen. Aaron Gordon isn't like, I think it actually kind of like an interesting one. Like, I think it's like a little interesting. Like he had a career high of 41, obviously, with the Orlando Magic. That's not a surprise.
That wasn't his best game.
What was his best game?
I actually don't know. I don't know what his individual best game would be. I see a game high game score. He had one, the 41-point game in 2018. But if we go to Denver, he had a 33.6. It was against that was the game they lost to the Magic when he was unbelievable.
Yes.
37-13. And the
Yep.
team just kind of was like, we're not interested tonight. Oh,
Aw, what a bummer.
that is a bummer.
Let's see. There's a 2017 game with Orlando where he was really good. That Chicago game was really good. They lost that. Man, a lot of his best games are in losses. That Hawks that Thunder game, the win in overtime back in 2022, 31 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. Not a bad one.
Let's say what are the odds that he has his best game of his career? I'm gonna say 10% because it is possible. It is possible. I think it's almost certainly not going to happen.
I will put it at 33%. I think there's a 1 in 3 chance that it happens. Because look, I'm going to stress this: if they do the smart thing and they actually get guys' games off,
fresh all year,
then Aaron and it's like if he's rested more and Yoke takes a night off once in a freaking while, then you can actually get Aaron with an opportunity. Like if you face the Blazers and you give Aaron the ball as primary initiator for a full game, I think Aaron can put up some numbers with how he learned.
I like it. I still think it's hard to have best game, but you know what? I like it. We'll do it. 10%, 33%. You can let us know in the chat which one you think.
Look, Jamal Murray's best game, I think, playoffs obviously is the bubble, right? Like that's this is the
thing about both Jokic and Murray is you start to split hairs, right? Because they've both reached the top of the S tier for individual games. So if we say about best seasons, I think it's possible. But if you say best games, Murray has multiple 50-point games in the playoffs. He has crazy games, 30-point triple-double in the finals. I don't think he'll top that. Can he get to that level again? Yes, but best game when it's all said and done, I don't know if we'll say that. I mean, for sure. Come on, man.
Do you have this 2021 game in front of you for Jamal, the 50-point regular season game?
That was against Cleveland. No free throws. Was it 21 of 25?
21 of 25, 13 of 15 from 2, 8 of 10 from 3, 6 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover.
I need Murray to have games like this year, man. I need it. Murray, come in great shape. Shut me up, please.
You know what? Honestly, I had forgotten.
That's who he is, Matt. That's why everybody's so mad. It's because he has this in him.
He had it is interesting to me that I completely this game had just slipped through my memory cracks where I just did not remember, because if you ask me well, how was he after, in 2021, I was like, well, he started slow and he started to play pretty well. And then he got hurt. And it's no, he had a 50-point game on 21 of 25 shooting in 2 months before he got hurt. So I mean, do you think though that he can have that kind of game this season?
Yes. I do. I right now we're at the bottom. If you're buying the Murray stock, it's at the bottom right now. It's at the dip. Maybe after this tournament, honestly, because I don't know if he's going to have a great game. But you know what? I'm still optimistic that he can get his body right over the next 8 weeks coming into camp, and that he can really push himself in ways he hasn't before, be more focused and out to prove something. So I'm hopeful. Can I give you an anecdote I heard over the weekend about Russell Westbrook?
Hit me.
I'm told that he made some calls after visiting Denver to chastise certain members of the team about how messy their lockers were. Again, just as a sign of the type of energy he's bringing, which I think is good. I don't think like a grouchy. I think it was a welcome, all right, hey man, we're not doing this. This is a work environment. Keep your desk clean.
Wow. Okay.
Which I like. I'm telling you, I think the Nuggets, these are the little things. Again, they can go off the rails. Maybe in 4 or 5 months, we're talking about, man, he's so annoying. Maybe it's that. But I look at this and I go, I just think the team had a lack of anybody that would ever say anything like that. They just didn't have a guy that's a specific type of energy. And I'm hopeful that that's hey, there's a guy in town. This is a business trip.
I'm most excited for Katie Wingy's interactions with Russell because everyone loves Katie. This is the ultimate test.
Oh, yeah. Show it. Oh, no,
Yeah. Everyone respects and loves Katie.
Yeah.
Everyone. Michael Porter Jr.
This is where the line. This is the line. Michael Porter's had some phenomenal games. When you just look statistically, he had the 8 of 10 shooting game in his rookie season. He's had some big time moments in playoffs. The Porter quarter, 22-point Porter quarter in the playoffs. I still think his best game is ahead of him. If we step back, it won't be statistical, but I think that there will be a game this year where we step back and go, that was the most complete game Michael Porter played. He looked like the most complete, and it might only be a 25-point game, like a 25 and 14 rebound, 6 assist game or something like that, where we're like, man, look at that. I don't know, but I think it'll be something where we're just like, that's the best all-around play we've seen from him.
I think there's definitely a game ahead of him where it's like he has a double-double because I think it's necessary for him to rebound in order for him to have a great game. And for him to have like one of those games where they actually give him the ball and just like for whatever reason it clicked that night and he was hitting he was hitting the quote unquote hezzies and like hitting, coming off of pin downs, actually getting to the rack, strong finish, a signature dunk, like one of those games where we're just like, God, like MPJ was a 3-level scorer tonight. I think he definitely has that game ahead of him. So I will agree with you. I think that he will have his best game of his career this season.
I think this will be my bold prediction when we get to predictions. I think he's going to have a game with 2 bona fide Porter quarters. He always has a Porter quarter and then like his, something else. I think he'll have 2 where we're like, oh, a Porter quarter in the first quarter. Oh, a Porter quarter in the third quarter. Oh my God. We're up to 40 points now going into the fourth.
Christian will have like his best game of his career by like game 10.
Yeah, I was doing the math on this earlier. He has a 25-point game versus New Orleans, and he has a 19-10-5 game against Memphis. He obviously had a great game in game 3 of the finals. So he has like some pockets of really good play in there, but I agree with you that I think his best game. Let's put it this way. How many of his top 10 games will come in this year, do you think?
9.
I think that, man, maybe. I'll say like 7. I think Christian Braun is going to have, I don't know. I think the year will be good for him, but I think he's going to have games and stretches where we're like, man, he is on a nice run of good games.
How many of Christian Braun's worst games will come this season?
None. I think that's another part of it is I think his floor is just higher. I mean, he'll have games where he shoots 0 for 4, but he doesn't like a disaster game for him is like also getting beat and turnovers. I just don't think it'll happen too much.
I think it'll be like 4 of 10. I think he'll have a lot of.
I mean, because he'll play more. So
I think he'll have nights where the opponent is like, you can shoot all you want, and they won't fall, and they'll be like, and then I will be insufferable, and then he'll shoot like 8 of 10 from 3 the next game, so it'll be fine. Peyton Watson, pretty easy. Like we both think that he's gonna like there's nothing but for Peyton.
He has an 18-7-5 game, which is really nice. That's like a off the bench triple double. It's like a half triple double. Here's the thing with Peyton. He's the one guy that I'm worried about where he's going to fit into this equation, just because I think of all the guys, this roster is least tailored to helping him have a breakout. There's not a lot of shooting off the bench. He's playing with Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric. He's going to be at best the 3rd option, at worst 4th or 5th option, and not a floor spacer. So I'm worried that this year might not set up for him very well. That being said, I think he's going to be by far the best version of himself he's ever been. So there'll be games where he looks really good. But I'm worried that this season is not tailored to him.
I have the most confidence in Peyton Watson. I have the most confidence of anybody of outside of Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon. I have the most confidence in Peyton Watson, even more than MPJ this season, that he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to have an absolutely.
I hope you're right on this one. I don't want to be right.
I think he's going to evolve into we're going to be talking about him as if like, could this guy be maybe this is a real star. Maybe this is a real star.
Man, if you tell me everything else is average and that's the case, the Nuggets are fine. Like Peyton Watson's that impactful of a player that if he's that, they're fine. I think one of the reasons the playoffs were so frustrating is that he didn't get the chance to close out that series. Yep. And now we have this wonder about what he can do and can't do. So if that's the case, Nuggets are looking good. Julian Strawther for sure. He hasn't played.
Yep. Dario Saric.
Well, you were doing the math on this one. His high is 26 points. He had a 26-8 game. Those numbers aren't that great. I will say this. I don't think he'll have a game better than that just because I don't know if the volume will be there. But I do think he'll have games in that range. I would not be surprised if there's a game Jokic rests. Dario Saric has a very good game and has like a 24-7 assist game or 24-6 assists, something like that. And we're like, man, that's pretty good. That's close to the best game he's ever played.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing it just because Dario is just another year on him. That injury really just did take something away from him. He was so good with that Suns team before he got hurt.
He averaged twice as many assists as he had in any other previous season last year. Average.
Yeah.
So and if you fill in for Yoke with a system that's already in place and you just get to play that role, I think he's suited for having a good game.
Hey, this is a separate question and we're running long, but I don't care. How interchangeable do you think guys are? They are not the same systems, but how interchangeable is it, do you think, from going from Golden State to Denver or Denver to Golden State? Because they're both motion read offense.
More similar. Definitely more similar than like the Clippers or
Right.
one of the Suns. So I think there's probably something to that for sure. But
Yeah.
I think more importantly, Dario Saric, he was a natural fit there, and I think that the way they play just in Europe in general is more like how the Nuggets play. Although the Nuggets, again, more stagnant than I would like. I'm hoping they're injecting more motion into their offense.
Yeah, for sure. All right, it's gonna do it for Locked On
Nope,
Nuggets.
yeah, I forgot one guy.
Who?
Zeke Naji.
Oh, okay.
The lowest of bars, his career high, 16-9. When I was looking up game score, he had a game with 16 points, 9 rebounds. That's his best. Honest question on this one, Matt.
Yeah.
16 points, 9 rebounds. Just factor in what kind of game that is. Will he have a game that's better than that? And if you want to just forget stats, you've seen Zeke's games. Do you think he'll have a game this year that you're like, that might have been the best game of his career?
My struggle here is that the only way I think he gets the opportunity to have that game is if there are injuries. And
well, the Nuggets are so thin. I just think he's going to play.
Yeah. It's just like, does he play versus an opponent he can have that kind of game against? Like if they're hurt and they play
a little more random, yeah.
Yeah, if they're hurt and they play Milwaukee, do I like Zeke's chances? No, I do not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's not the one.
That's like my struggle here. So like I'll say no.
I'm gonna say yes because the bar's so low.
Yeah.
And like I said last year, he gets the contract. It's kind of a pressure year. Everything's on the outs. There's guys behind him. This year, I think he'll get an opportunity where it's a little bit more low leverage, and the bar is so low. I think he'll clear it.
Do we do Yoke?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Oh, or maybe we didn't. But Yoke, we talked about him alongside Murray. It's just so hard. He has like 40 S tier games.
Yes.
So is he going to have the best of the S tier game? Honestly, would we even recognize it if we saw it? I don't know.
Yeah. Sometime in the future, before, like, we can't just do this after he's done. Like, we have to do this. Like, you and I got to sit down and we just got to be like, here are our top 10 Jokic games.
Whew, man, it'd be so hard to do, but it would be so fun to do.
We got to do it. All right, it's got to do it for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. We'll see you guys again tomorrow with Swipa for Tuesday. We'll be back on World's Finest on Wednesday, and then Swipe and Gripe on Thursday or Friday, depending on how Swipe and schedules go. Hope you guys have yourselves a great week. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.